Hey guys, I'm Dr. V. I am the CEO and boss NP of The Clinician Life. And in today's video, we're going to be talking all about when should you quit your job. And this is a really difficult topic because I feel like I look at the job boards and I'm always seeing these nurse practitioners just struggling in their first year. And they start to realize that maybe becoming a nurse practitioner isn't what they thought it was going to be. And they want to move on and they don't know whether it is moving on into back into an RN role or moving on into another job. And I think that this is such a big struggle for all of us. And I really want to be able to talk about this because it breaks my heart to hear people wanting to move on into another back into the RN role. I think that nurse practitioners do so much in communities, and there's just so much potential for world change that it's a heartbreak to ever hear that somebody leaves our profession because of certain circumstances. So I want to also preface with, with my first nurse practitioner job, I lasted 3 months before I gave my 3-month notice because I was in a contract. So I really only worked 6 months before I gave my notice. But I learned so much about myself and then about the nurse practitioner role that I want to be able to share that with you. And maybe if this means that this can help anybody else either prevent them from leaving or allow them to persevere and make change in their own organization, then I've done my job and then I can go to sleep happy. I see when should I quit, right? And I think the question is, did you do everything that you could on your side to make sure that the changes that you feel need to be made have been made? One of the biggest things that I see is a lot of times people might expect people like the employer to know how they're feeling or what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And the truth is that if you don't set your own boundaries, they're going to cross them every single time, right? They're going to get away with whatever they can get away with until you put your foot down and hopefully it's not too late, right? I think there's a big term now going around called quiet quitting, right? Where you're just kind of like, okay, taking it, and then just quitting and then saying, you know what, I'm done. And I don't think that's fair. I think that there, as professionals, as nurse practitioners and as leaders, we should be able to have a say in making change right where we're at, right in our own clinics, right in our own communities. So if there is an organization that is not aligning with what they should be doing and the way that they should be treating you as a provider, then I think that you need to have difficult conversations with leadership and your superiors, and whether it be and maybe that's the problem, right? Maybe you need to align with other providers that might be going through the same thing, or maybe you feel alone in it, right? Then maybe you need to express that. So I'll just give you a little bit of story of what happened to me when I was in my first year or my first job. I was brand new and there was another nurse practitioner and there was a physician that I worked with. And it was a very busy clinic. The physician had a full schedule. And then the nurse practitioner was maybe 6 months older or more experienced than me. She had graduated 6 months before me. And so she had her own clinic patients. However, she was struggling in her own ways because the patients were really complex and there wasn't really a great training program and not a lot of mentorship going on. So not the physician's fault or anybody else, but ultimately, the physician was had a full schedule. So the organization didn't do a good job at preparing us as new grad nurse practitioners to take over this role, in a busy clinic in a managed care organization where, these patients were just so complex and sick. So she had her own patients, but she was taking a lot longer. She wasn't as efficient because they were complex and there was a lot of questions and a lot of utilizing resources and trying to really figure it out as she went. And of course, she didn't want to make any errors, so she was taking her time. So what would happen is patients would start to back up in the clinic. And then the front staff would start getting, and administrators who are non-clinical would start getting complaints from patients saying, I've been waiting 2 hours to see a provider. What's taking so long? So me as a new provider, they had promised me that I was going to see one patient in the morning, one patient in the afternoon, and then we're going to grow your practice little by little as you see fit. And I thought that was like the best thing ever, right? Well, what ended up happening is that those patients ended up being put onto my schedule. And here I am as a new grad, thinking, okay, I've got one add-on. I've got two add-ons. Well, what happens is those patients who were waiting 2 hours are now mad and pissed off because here they are, thinking that I'm the one that was taking 2 hours, right? They're like complaining to me saying, why are you taking 2 hours to see me? And I'm like, I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus. Like, what do you do? Right? So you just take it, eat it, apologize, and just say, I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm going to help you now. And so, that kept going and going on and on. And so I was also a little bit slower. So I was trying to move through all of the add-ons that I had, and I didn't have time to prepare. And I was getting overwhelmed. And then there was hundreds of labs that had to be reviewed, right? So, as nurse practitioners, we have to review labs, we have to review radiology, call patients back, questions, right? All of that. And so there was no time during the clinic to be able to do that. So what did I do? I ended up having to stay late and work like 13 hours a day. And, the other providers, or I'll say one of the other providers, we're leaving at 5 o'clock. They were like, I'm done. I'm done. I've done my 8 hours and I'm going home, whether those labs are done or not. And so, as a nurse, we're like, there's patients behind these labs. I can't just leave. So the other nurse practitioner and I would always work late, just trying to catch up on, documentation, trying to catch up on labs and calls and all these other things. And then also billing, right? Oh my God. If you're a nurse practitioner watching this, start to learn the billing side of things, so that doesn't catch you later on, because what can happen is it can slow you down if you don't understand how billing and coding works, in your practice. So, that for us in managed care, what would happen is they would need to make sure that everything was coded properly. And so they had a specific coder that was on site that would literally go to us and audit our charts and say, like, here are all of the things I need you to fix in your notes or in your coding. And so that was another problem that we had. So that got really old really quick. And I said, I can't do this. I can't continue to work 13-hour days, 5 days a week, working through my lunch. And it was really, really taxing on me. I was starting to have physical problems. The other nurse practitioner was having palpitations. She was seeing a cardiologist. Like, it was just out of control. And so, I'm a solution oriented person. And that's what I challenge you to be, is if you are solution oriented and you think of things that you could fix, that could fix the problems, not only for yourself, but for other people in your practice, then, bring them forward. So I went to the administrator and I was like, look, so-and-so and I are pretty new and we really need more support. Is there a way, that we could maybe, get administrative time, right? I hadn't even thought about that in the beginning of my journey and when I first started interviewing. But at that time, I was like, look, there's no time. We're booked from the moment we come in to the moment we leave. What time are we supposed to do all these labs and callbacks and all these different things? So they basically allowed us I asked for like 2 days a week of just an hour with no patients to be able to just catch up on labs, catch up on calls, and really just prepare for either the next day or whatever we needed to do. That lasted about 2 weeks. She agreed, and thankfully she was also solution oriented. But the way that this clinic was structured, it was like, she was the administrator of the clinic, but not my boss. My boss was a medical director, which was like offsite. So, it was kind of difficult. So a difficult dynamic when it came to like making change, right? And thinking back, I could have done things differently, or maybe been a little bit more strategic as to where I took my ideas to. But I took him to her, and she had, say over our schedules. So what we ended up doing is, getting those couple of hours in. But what happens is this clinic it wasn't like a clinic that had, it wasn't just one clinic. It was multiple clinics everywhere, all over the city and all over the state. Corporate got wind of it and they were like, well, nobody else does this. We're not, what makes you so special? Right. So, they stopped it. Maybe we did it for like 2 or 3 weeks and they said, no, we're not doing that. And so, there went that idea. Right. So, I was bummed about that and I was upset and I'm like, okay, well, what if, I started thinking, okay, well, what if we asked the physician was like a really smart physician, like he was, a faculty member and loved to teach, but he just didn't have the time. So I ended up convincing him to come in like just 15 to 30 minutes earlier in the day to be able to just sit down with us, so that we can prepare for the day. So look at like those labs or look at, certain radiology that we had questions about, and really just kind of collaborate on the patients that we were all sharing. And, he had agreed. And so did the other nurse practitioner did. So we were getting in there early and we were just kind of like powwowing and just kind of talking and really doing, I think that was going to be the best way that we could all take care of these patients together. That lasted maybe 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month before people got tired of getting in there early. And it just like little by little started creeping in a little bit later. Instead of 30 minutes, it was like 20 minutes and then it turned 15 minutes. And then it was like, nobody's there anymore. We're just here to see patients again. So, and it was on his own time. So it's like, I can't complain. Right. But again, it was a thought that I wanted to, bring forward to see like, okay, these are the things that we're struggling with. And here are my ideas. So I did everything I could think of to really just bring forth ideas that I had that maybe we could do something that can make this better. Also, so for the coding and billing thing, right? What would happen is like, let's say, I'm in the middle of seeing a patient, right? And, there's a patient that is having chest pain, but they can't see their cardiologist without a referral. So the provider has to create the referral in the computer, has to sit there and type in the patient's name, the code, and all these different things. Well, the coder was the one that would come in. They were the ones that would be able to know exactly what needed to be done, but they couldn't do it, right? So I was like, well, why are the providers having to stop their clinic day to go into the computer, to type all this up, print it out, and then sign it? Why can't this be done by the customer care person? Why can't it just be that customer care person that ends up going in and giving us what they need us to sign and then be done, right? This is the patient. This is what we need and blah, blah, blah. And then they end up faxing it and it gets done, right? That patient can go see their cardiologist and it'll be paid for and everything is good. No, that's not how we do it. So I brought that up to everybody. I think I even brought that to corporate. I'm like, this is a really weird way of doing things. This is not a, proficient, efficient way to utilize a provider's time that could be seeing patients, but instead you're, let me not go into that, but you get the point, right? You get the point. So what the moral of the story here is I had all these amazing ideas that I was just coming up against the wall. And, and I think the thing was like, I was so close to actually getting the things to be changed, but then I'd take one step forward and then 2 steps back, 1 step forward and then like 3 steps back. And I was like, this is the most frustrating thing. And I didn't see an end to it. And I'm like, look, I have kids at home and I can't possibly be able to continue to work 13 hours straight, with no change in the way that I function as a provider. And that's when I knew it was time to leave that job, right? And they knew the problems that we were having, but they chose not to change. So, and the thing is that when a nurse practitioner leaves, when you onboard a provider, it's expensive. It's not the same as an RN, right? They have to do credentialing and that costs money. And there's, insurances and all these different things that go into, getting a nurse practitioner onboarded and then for them to leave 3 months later, or give their notice 3 months later, that's bad. That's expensive. That is huge cost, to the organization. So, at the end of the day, I knew what I needed to do for me. And I knew that I did everything that I needed to do to be able to sleep good at night, knowing that I tried my best. And that's all I ask for you, right? So if you're in a situation where you are frustrated and maybe things aren't working efficiently for you, or maybe you're short-staffed and there's just no end in sight, have those difficult conversations. And if it means going to the next level, right? And I think, for me, with the situation of, getting administrative time, I should have gone beyond the administrator, but again, I was a new grad, and for being a new grad and having like all of these, complaints or these, requests, I think that was pretty ballsy of me. Because I'm a very shy person. I don't like confrontation, all these different things, but I was able to find my voice in there. So I challenge you to find your voice, and this can be done professionally. This isn't, I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling at anybody. I wasn't disrespectful. It was 1000% like, look, I'm here and invested in this, and I want to make this better, and I want to work as a team to make it better. And, you show up as a leader when you do that. And, I had a lot of respect from the people there, for the things that I tried to do. I had patients crying when I left, like sobbing on the phone or in the clinic when I was talking to them about, me leaving, and I had only known them for 3 months. I think that, it can be it's difficult for the transition if you're going to choose to leave. But again, do everything that you can on your end to make sure that that is something that, that you did everything you could, because the grass isn't always going to be greener on the other side, right? Some things just don't change. So, and also, if you do decide to change, then now you know what are deal breakers and what are not deal breakers for you, right? So you think about, okay, well, this deal breaker, I need admin time for my next position. And that is exactly what I got. Like, I had a whole day off to do my admin time, which was great. I really needed that because for me, I needed that time. If not, I didn't want to end up in the same situation. So now I knew what to look for, right? I knew that I needed to look for someplace that was going to give me admin time, that was going to give me the support that I needed, that was going to give me a good amount of training, that it was going to be with a provider that was open to my ideas, open to listening, and open to training, right? And open to teaching. And it's not about that I needed all of this training and all of this teaching. It's all about collaboration, right? We're working together to serve patients. We all need to work as a team to do that. So I hope this video was helpful. And I hope that my story can inspire you to really just try to make the changes that you need to make. And if it's time to move on and it's affecting your health, if your job is ever affecting your health, then it's time to go. That's when you should quit. And that's when you should say, like, look, this is not worth it. It's just going to be a bump in the road, and you can move on and go on to a place that's going to be able to treat you appropriately and give you the things that you need to really be able to become that boss NP that you're meant to be, right? So I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, and I'll see you in the next video.